The pyramid is a very useful image for these tutorials because it expresses several fundamental aspects of this teaching. It implies climbing or effort without which one cannot progress on this path. It implies ascent, meaning that as one rises, one sees more, one gains a broader view of oneself and the world around one. And it implies a movement towards a focal point, that this is not only about accumulating knowledge, but about turning knowledge into being, using knowledge in order to be. We will begin this tutorial by examining the role of knowledge in this teaching. We will see that knowledge must be combined with first-hand experience if it is to help us climb the pyramid. We will draw from the story of Prince Siddhartha, who, like us, sets out to explore his surroundings and gradually learns unsuspecting things about them. And once we understand the roles of knowledge and being, we will apply that understanding to the world of our emotions.
Certain teachings compare man to a house of 4 rooms. Man lives in one room, the smallest and poorest of all, and until he is told of it, he does not suspect the existence of the other rooms, which are full of treasures.
One of the ancient teachings that compares man to an unexplored house is Buddhism. It expresses this comparison in the story of the life of Prince Siddhartha. The auspicious circumstances around Siddhartha's conception and birth, his emerging out of the right side of Queen Maya's womb, lead a sage to predict that the newborn prince will grow to become either a great monarch or an enlightened being. The king, wishing his son to inherit his kingdom rather than retire to a religious life, confines Siddhartha to the palace, hoping that a life of luxury will prevent any spiritual inclinations to arise in him. As Siddhartha nears his 30s, he becomes more and more curious of what lies beyond the palace walls. His confinement to a palace and his eventual venturing outside is an allegorical description of man, who lives in a small part of himself, rarely suspecting the existence of other rooms in his microcosmos. When Siddhartha finally ventures out, he witnesses exactly those realities which his father had hoped he would never see: sickness, old age, and death. On his first excursion, he sees an old man.
Who is this man that has come here, O charioteer, with white hair and his hand resting on a staff? That is old age by which he is broken down. He too once drank milk in his childhood. Having step by step become a vigorous youth, he has, step by step, in the same way, reached old age.
Siddhartha's charioteer or driver represents the mind. First comes experience. We observe something, in this case, Siddhartha witnessing an old man leaning on his staff. And then comes the mind's explanation of what we observe. This combination of first-hand experience and mental explanation is how we learn. This is an important point. We cannot learn with only one or only the other. Knowledge in this system must be accompanied by verification.
If you only hear about these ideas or read about them, they remain merely words. But when you begin to verify them for yourselves, when you understand each function in yourselves and find out your own feelings and sensations connected with each of them, then it becomes knowledge.
Our self-discovery, our venturing into the unexplored rooms of our own being will have to follow this step-by-step progression. If we studied this system in a classroom without simultaneously observing ourselves, our knowledge would remain theoretical. If we observed ourselves without the knowledge of the system, our observations would remain vague. To advance on this path, we have to combine one with the other. We have to take a step of knowledge and follow it with a step of verification, or vice versa. Take a step of verification and follow it with a step of knowledge. It doesn't matter which comes first, as long as one is consistently accompanied by the other. Knowledge alone cannot change us, Only verification leads to change. Back to Siddhartha. Now that he's verified for the first time in his life the reality of old age, he returns to his palace changed. He can no longer see things the way he used to.
Since such is our condition, O charioteer, turn back the horses, go quickly home. How can I rejoice in the pleasure garden when the thoughts arising from old age overpower me?
In exactly the same way, once we verify a habit, we can no longer indulge in it with a clear conscience as we used to. This doesn't mean it immediately stops, but that our attitude towards it has changed. Just like Siddhartha can no longer view his luxurious palace in the same way.
The more a man understands what he is doing, the greater will be the results of his efforts. This is a fundamental principle of the fourth way. The results of work are in proportion to the consciousness of the work. No faith is required on the fourth way. On the contrary, faith of any kind is opposed to the fourth way. On the fourth way, a man must satisfy himself of the truth of what he is told. And until he is satisfied, he must do nothing.
In the coming tutorials, we will seek to understand negative emotions. Like Siddhartha and his driver, we will venture into the unexplored room of our emotional world. The tutorials will focus on different aspects of negative emotions, and in so doing, lay the ground for our observation. To start, we will set an aim to avoid expressing negative emotions throughout this week. But because this is too big and broad of an aim, we will make it more specific. We will deliberately skip one meal in the coming week, in particular a meal we're most accustomed to having, and pay careful attention to negativity after this little sacrifice: irritability, impatience, judgment, and so forth. We each have a favorite meal or beverage which we are accustomed to having at a particular time of each day. For me, it is the coffee and biscuit in the morning. For someone else, it is a beer and snack in the afternoon. And for a third person, it is lunch during work. The irritation of missing this pattern only once will likely evoke more internal negativity than usual, which we can then observe and try our best not to express. And here's a tip for Siddhartha, or the part in us that observes. We're most habitually negative to those with whom we're closest: our spouses, our children, our parents, or our very close friends. Be particularly observant in those circumstances. And here's a tip for our driver, or the mind. We almost never call negative emotions negative emotions. We justify them by numerous other names. If we express negativity towards our children, we call it correction. Or if we express negativity towards our boss, we call it injustice. So watch for that too.
The most important aspect of discipline is not expressing negative emotions and not indulging in negative emotions. If you catch yourself at a moment of negative emotion and stop it, this is discipline.
So this week, we will introduce an interruption to our day by skipping one favorite meal, by paying careful attention to negativity that arises as a result of that sacrifice, making an effort not to express it, but to take note of it under its proper name: irritability, impatience, judgment, and so forth. This will mark our venturing into the world of our emotions.